Okay, so I am intrigued by how they are doing this story thing. I'm gonna cut my nails soon. Um, because it's a new approach for Final Fantasy 14. It is certainly not a new approach for MMOs. And the problem is that the MMOs that have this approach are not known for coherent, well written stories. And people who misunderstand how this game works will often, be like, oh, this is an RPG first and an MMO second. No, it's not, first off. But there's a fundamental truth that everything eventually, or not eventually, like everything in Final Fantasy 14 does circle around this central narrative idea. And everything. The kids are having fun right now. Everything, of course, like, just goes around this and has an interconnectedness and a coherent thread to follow that I think this approach of now it's all this level scaling, or like it's all going to scale and you do whatever order you want, this is all going to just kind of result in a bunch of things that don't really all become apparent in how they intertwine until the 11th hour. And I think on the one hand, that does create a possibility for interesting speculation as you're playing it through. But on the other hand, I think I think the narrative longevity of such an approach to storytelling like there's going to like it's going to have a very clear demarcation of like how you feel about this story when it is brand new, totally fresh, early access, is going to be different from how someone a few years down the line presents it, or even just a few months or a few weeks down the line. And it's just weird to have that like as a starting point for the expansion. My chief concern is less that, however, and more how this all affects the gameplay, because no, this is not an RPG first, MMO second. It is still an MMO second. There is still content, there is still balance, there is like everything also comes back to the content. And when they said that this is how this would work, and that the dungeons would be like dynamic levels, like have like level scaling, blah blah blah, my immediate thought was, what does the extreme of this look like? How are they going to tune this content in a way that these extreme cases are not hard fail states? And then as a result of having to tune it to these extremes, how is this going to impact this, like everything on the spectrum in between? And this is where I take bigger issue, because here's what I view as the two extremes. A level, so you're in a leveling dungeon. You're in Evercold's Dusk Vigil, Sastasha, Siren Song, whatever. The well, I guess it wouldn't even really work like that. You're just in a leveling dungeon. You have a level 109 tank, you have two level 109 DPS, and you have a level 101 healer. That is one end of the extreme. I think the other end of the extreme is a level 101 tank, a level 101 healer, a level 101 DPS, and a level 109 DPS. That is the other end of this extreme. I do not think there's too much concern for the possibility of like 101 tank, 101 DPS, both of them, and a 109 healer. If anything, that's just okay. The healer will continue, like, sure, fine, whatever. I don't think that would look like an issue. The issue with the 101 healer, everyone else 109, is how is this damage profile going to look that the level 101 healer is going to be able to successfully do their job, healing the damage that the tank is supposed to be tanking in dungeon pulls, raid wides in bosses, people start eating shit, getting vols, blah blah blah. At some point this stat difference is going to like impact the healer's ability to fucking do this, because think you have a healer that is 100 item levels below you, because would it be 100? I don't think it'd be a full, no, 100 would be crazy, probably like 60 I think is fuck, what is the item level of this stuff? Okay, so Shadowbringer ended at 530, and then AF5 was what item level was that? I don't fucking remember, god damn it. AF5 was item level. I don't need to. Okay. Endwalker ended at 660. AF6 is 690. Okay, so that's only 30 item levels. Maybe this won't be as bad. But that's assuming you're that's assuming you're a max level ship. Let's assume that you are a player who, based on how it happens, or like based on how the prior expansions work when they like are no longer current, the only freebie gear that one would be getting from Dawn Trail would stop at the second level of augmented tome gear. That stuff is. Wait, I need to use. And the Endwalker gives you 630, and then there is a non-zero chance that you get absolutely nothing from anything else between Endwalker's final dispensary of 630 gear, and for whatever reason you decide not to get not to spend your poetics on 660 gear, and then your next upgrade is 690. So that's a theoretical 60 item level difference. So let's pretend this is what we're working with. Let's pretend that we are dealing with okay, so for 790 now plus 30 more item levels is going to be 820. So let's say you're dealing with 3 people in 820 gear and 1 person in 760 gear. That is a real scenario that can very much so happen, because that's what if they continue the gear trends, that is something that could very much that is a real scenario using future numbers. Those 60 item levels, it may not look like a lot at first, but there's still this possibility that just like how is this sliding scale of balancing going to work that makes it an interesting experience for the 109s, an interesting experience for the 101, but is still possible with this kind of disparity. I think the other extreme, where you have one DPS that's 109 and everyone else is 101, I don't think that'll be as bad of a problem, because and entity the aggro modifiers are crazy high, that there shouldn't be an issue of a tank losing aggro because they're just getting out aggroed by a DPS that is just doing way more damage than them. I don't think that's I don't. I would be shocked to find out that that is a possibility. Um, and again, Picto was able to do that. Don't show release, but they made more changes as a result of this. So maybe they've future proofed themselves pretty nicely to prevent this. But so I mean, there's this question of how is this going to be balanced? How is this going to be effective? How is this going to be engaging? How is this going to be interesting? That I just, when looking at the extremes of it, I have concerns about. There's one other. Oh, the other thing that I think this opens up that worries me is that if every single dungeon give okay, so based on how they presented it, it seemed as though they had their like little area A, B, C, D, and then area question mark. I don't know why they couldn't just call it E, but I guess they wanted to be cute about it. And let's say in theory that this final area, that's like the dead ends, that's Amarot, and that there's not some like and so it's like the final MSQ dungeon. You go there when you were on Evercold. You're not going there when you're going to like do Orogenics or Atioscope or Mount Golg. Like that's not a leveling dungeon. That is your first capstone dungeon. And so then all of the leveling dungeons are in these scaling areas. This presents the possibility for a new kind of meta that is going to result in something that we've already seen happen before with Etherochemical Research Facility. The reason why we have high level roulette, no, sorry, not high level roulette. No, what was high level roulette? The one that's the roulette of. No, this happened in 3.2. I think it was just MSQ roulette, but I don't really know why that went. No, I remember what it was. It is related to high level roulette. In Heavensward, or initially in Heavensward, Etherochemical was not in any roulettes. It was not in expert roulette. And so for 3.0 and 3.1, the only way to do Etherochemical was to queue for it and then hope that other people were queuing for it. Because there wasn't Mentor Roulette at that point yet either. Mentor Roulette didn't come till a little bit later because the Mentor system did not come a little bit later. In 3.2, they realized their oversight in this because players were complaining that they could not finish Heavensward because no one was queuing for this dungeon. No one wanted to do Etherochemical. The rewards were not worth it. It took fucking forever. It's just not fun. It's not designed well. Sorry. Also, I think Imaginations is... Which, this is how we'll know if my husband has watched this video, because when he gets to that point of the video, he will just come find me and strike me across the face. In a fun way, not an abuse way. It's not funny. If you laughed, you're going to hell. But it resulted in people not being able to finish 3.0, and so they couldn't do anything, and they were like, oops, our bad. Okay, we're gonna put Etherochemical in the capstone roulette come 3.2. Sorry, we fucked up. This is now going to create a very... But the point is that the dungeon was not incentive enough for other people, and so people didn't do it. And so I think it's not going to happen initially, mostly because I think people will be too interested in... This is something that's going to take some time to develop. But, let's say every single leveling dungeon scales you from 101 to 109. And, you can do any of them from 101 to 110. You could theoretically do the same dungeon for all 9 levels, since you'll have to be 101 to do them. And you do that until your cap. This is probably or like the possibility that this opens up is now for the a leveling meta, in the sense that there is going to be one dungeon for whatever reason that is going to be preferred by the community. Maybe it is simply the easiest to navigate. Maybe the bosses are the easiest. Maybe the glamour rewards are the best. For but there's going to be a hierarchy of what is the best dungeon, and then every other dungeon is going to get ignored. And so people who are trying to just go through the dungeons the first time for the story, when they're trying to go let's say, yeah, you can do Siren Song C from 61 to 70, and so then you never have to step foot in Shisui and Bardam's Metal. Sign me the fuck up for that. You're telling me that I would never have to do Otioscope after doing the MSQ ever again? Say less. And I enjoy this game. I engage with this content on a meaningful level across all or like in a meaningful way across all levels. If I am thinking of this, if I am saying this, there are 100% going to be people doing this, because while I would not, but again, the possibility of never having to step foot in Don Meg ever again titillates me. It could totally all come, maybe it would all come out of the wash, and there will be these instances where, like, oh, well, maybe you really love Don Meg, but you don't like Katana Ravel. First off, incorrect. Katana Ravel's the best. All hail the crazy monkey pole. Secondly, like, for every Don Meg hater, there's also a Holminster hater and a Malik as well hater and a Golg hater. Like, maybe maybe there will be enough distribution of haters that this won't become a problem, but I doubt it, because the people who will really start looking at this are going to be looking at the efficiency of it. Or again, they're like those glamorous endgame. Shut the fuck up. Just play the fucking game. Just, anything that doesn't give dyeable gear, I guarantee you that's going to be pretty low on the list. Undyeable gear is very quickly becoming a cardinal sin, which, I mean, to be totally honest, Dawn Trail, the expansion of 2 dye channels, does have a shocking amount of undyeable gear that is new to Dawn Trail. I don't know. I feel like this possibility opens the game up to weaknesses that it did not have. Weaknesses in its narrative, weaknesses in its mechanical execution to push the narrative. I'm just, yet at the end of the day, you will be hard pressed to find someone who is more on the, let's just wait and see train than myself. I like to think that I can maintain a relatively reasonable level state about how my content is fed to me. But I'm not going to act like I don't have reservations about how it was presented. Maybe it's just presented badly. Maybe in execution it'll be great. Or maybe they'll get enough feedback to realize that, like, they have these blind spots of, oh shit, how are we going to prevent these scenarios from playing out? Or, oh shit, how are we going to, like, in the same way that they said that they have to tune all the DPS checks around Reborn mode, even though Evolved is doing more damage, in order to actually give players a choice, which, if you recall my other video, there's not a fucking choice. I don't know. I think sometimes gamers do not deserve to have choices. And I think one of the genuine mechanical strengths of Final Fantasy XIV is that for a very long time, in many ways, they have not given their players choices. Because I think being told what to do to a degree is necessary in order to like, like, if I had a choice, if I actually had a choice in never stepping foot in Don Mag outside of MSQ, god damn it, we were doing so good. I made it 21 minutes. Come on, guys. I think I'm almost done. I only have one other thing to talk about. And there's not a video on for me to get distracted by because it's done for the day. I think not letting... if the possibility becomes that I don't ever have to step foot in Don Meg again, since I think they said they're also working on backporting this, which presents a whole other issues for the balancing of it. Can you... Like, what are you gonna... How far is this going to stretch? Let's take it to the absolute most fucked up extreme and say it's by expansion. Okay, so we're gonna have level 15 conjurers in Aurum Vale? What? I don't think that's how it'll play out. I think in A Realm Reborn, it'll probably be a little more restrictive. It'll probably be like Sastasha to Ifrit, Ifrit to Titan, Titan to Garuda, Garuda to End. Or in chunks of 10, because that's how the other ones will be too. Anyone really knew. I also might have misunderstood. Maybe they don't have any intentions to backport this, because maybe the only thing they're backporting is that auto run thing, which, for the record, whatever. Like, whatever. I don't think that is the feature you should be getting mad about if you're going to get mad about anything, because it's probably just the biggest reason when it's going to take time is because I guarantee you it's literally probably just one guy doing it in his spare time when he's done with his other task for the day. And you're like, okay, well, now I have to put in my little mapper bot into these places that go here. That, like, no, that's not a dev drain. The biggest dev drain is probably the assets used for the monster hunter thingy that people are saying it's giving. I don't play crap, so I don't know. But the long-term balancing of this and how they are going to prevent these holes in MSQ required content, because this is where I kind of started to take issue with how they have implemented duty support. That you could just say, oh yeah, well, I mean, does it matter if you can't get a queue for Don Mag when you're trying to do it for MSQ? You can just do duty support. But, like, why, though? Like, why can we not make both options equally attractive? And, people who want to play with other players, and as a new player, you're not going to really learn anything about how the game works just doing duty support, because, you're not seeing actual humans playing. I want to see how this plays out. I want to see how they balance these extreme situations. I want to see what steps are done to prevent there from being disparities in ability to get a duty finder queue. And I hope that the scenarios that I have crafted and how this plays out just turn out to be total impossibilities. It's all fine, whatever, peace and rainbows, blah, blah, blah. I would love to be proven wrong. And just on a fundamental level, I don't know the possibility of me being proven wrong versus proven right. We're just gonna have to fucking wait and see. The other thing, super brief, I'm 100% correct. Again, this middle ground this middle difficulty doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve anything! like, it all comes back to you either don't have the time or you don't want to. And no amount of middle stage is going to fix that. And nothing they've shown indicates that this middle stage is going to fix that. Because also, once again, like, if this intermediate difficulty is less than or equal to extreme, that's worthless. At least make it equal to extreme. Like, we need training wheels to get people into extreme content now. Fucking yikes! Like, extreme is the training wheels. No, stop it. The person who lives catty corner from us is getting, like, extensive work done in their yard and sidewalk, whatever. It's been a fucking nightmare. Anyway, that's not where this needs to be. This needed to be somewhere between extreme and savage, not between extreme and nothing. Also, this, like, increment... Oh, the fact that it's not required for savage at all. I know there's, like, a pause record feature that I could be using right now, but this feels more organic. Are we done? Thank you. I think this... Hey. Okay, I get it. I'll wrap up. I think this middle difficulty reward thing, where, like, they said the savage gear would be unchanged. I was talking about how it's not even required to do savage. Lol. Okay, so, like, what reason is there for me to do this? And if there's not reason for me to do this, then how is this going to fill these parties if the people who know they can do it aren't at least help? Like, if you have 8 people who are all like, oh, I can't do savage, there's no information there for them to share amongst themselves. And like, unless these rewards genuinely become worth my time, which it doesn't seem like they're going to be, so I'm probably not going to do this shit. Because I don't fucking need to. But then as a result, the pool of people who are doing this content are actually the worst pool of people possible, because you have the people who don't do the content at all because they think they can't. And so then they never have a chance to, learn badly. They never have a chance to, like, get discouraged by it. And then you have the people who never do it because they don't. You have the people like myself who don't need this because I do savage, I do ultimate. It's fine that it's there. I don't engage with it because its rewards mean nothing to me, and I don't need a training ground for anything because I know how to play this game at a high level. But if you have it becomes an issue of blind leading the blind almost, because, like, I don't see this being a thing that improves the player base quality, because, if they try this mode and then they're like, yay, we can do it, let's go on a savage, and then they get their ass beat in the quote retweets, they're right back where they started. Worse yet, they try this mode, they get their ass beat in the quote retweets by this intermediate difficulty because they still lack fundamental understanding of how to play this game, and they are never in groups with people who can give them this information. Where do they go? They end up feeling worse than they did before, because then this content that's presented as this is the training ground, it's gonna feel like shit to those people who can't even make it in the fucking practice round. Like, I worry that it's going. I worry that how they are doing some of these mechanical systems open up possibility. Like, this is where it all comes back to. How these mechanical systems are being introduced opens up new fail states for players, for how players interact with the game that weren't there. And on the one hand, I think it is I don't think it's bad for them to be trying this per se, but any negative consequences are just going to be amplified so much further than any, or so greater than any positive consequences. Like, sure, there's the possibility that, yes, someone comes into this training ground and they're like, okay, cool, I can do it. And then they go to Savage and then they get their ass beat in the quote retweets, and then they reflect on, okay, why did I get killed? Why is this not fucking working? What am I still missing to do this? And then they actually act on that information. Or better yet, they find out they're fucking prodigy and are like, cool. If not for this intermediate mode, I never would have become a septuple, octuple, legend, world racer, the new TPS, whatever. By the way, why did it say ultimate raid? Didn't they say ultimate raids in Anaheim? Why is this back down to singular? Don't like that. That Sephiroth ultimate is going to go crazy, though. Anyway. I totally lost my train of thought. Once again, we wait and see. If you've watched my half-hour video, that's the takeaway of, once again, we'll wait and see. I have reservations. Big fucking shock. I fundamentally approach this game in a more pragmatist stance than I think most people would actually expect out of me, which, to be honest, fair. There's a level of detachment that I think one might not expect to come from me, given my almost 50,000 hours in this game. Which, sure, fair enough. Clocked. I don't know. We'll find out. I am, as always, eager to see how things play out. If everything I've said here is proven wrong, yay, awesome. If everything I've said here is proven right, hopefully it doesn't have severe enough ramifications to lead to bigger problems down the line. I don't know. Oh, wait, yeah, the gear for this, what? It's what? You do this and then the piece of gear increases in one item level, and so you have to do it a million fucking weeks in order to... But also the fact that, if you're not doing Savage, then why do you need this item level? Or what's gonna fucking happen when all the crit gear is still behind Savage, and then all this fucking intermediate gear is okay, well, enjoy your skill speed, enjoy your piety, enjoy your tenacity, get fucked. Callum, yes, fine, whatever. I need to figure out launcher myself. I don't know. I think the details that they just haven't shown open up the possibility for too much negativity that goes just beyond doomerism. I don't think anything I've said is dooming. I want to say doomering, but I've never seen someone say that. But I'm just going to go with doomering. I don't think anything that I have said qualifies as doomering. Hey! Mostly because I think, I open for the possibility of the realistic approach, the optimist approach. to set myself on fire. Like I'm not rejecting anything outright. I will never reject anything outright. But I don't know. There's some convincing that needs to take place. Sure, whatever. We'll figure it out. Maybe Tokyo in October will solve everything. That's also a possibility. Anyway, yeah. Bye.